Welcome back to the channel World Coins Master everyone, and thank you for joining us in today's deep dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of United States coinage, a story that revolves around a small coin, a coin that most people would not even glance at twice, yet a coin that under certain circumstances could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. We are talking about the 1951 1-cent wheat penny, a coin that carries only a face value of 1 cent but in certain rare cases has been evaluated at an astronomical amount, even as high as $560 million, because of errors, minting anomalies, and the mysterious possibilities that surround rare coins in the collector's market. Today we are going to explore everything about this coin, its history, its design, the era in which it was minted, the mistakes that can make it so incredibly valuable, and why collectors chase it with such passion. If you have ever wondered how a simple penny from the early 1950s could reach values greater than what most people will ever see in their lifetime, you are about to find out. To understand why the 1951 wheat penny holds such fascination, we need to travel back to the time in which it was minted. The year 1951 was a post-World War II America, a nation in transition, building its prosperity and identity. Coin production was in full swing to keep up with a growing economy, and the Lincoln cent was already a beloved piece of currency, having first appeared in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The wheat penny design, with Lincoln's portrait on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks on the reverse, had become familiar to millions of Americans by 1951. But as with all coins, not every piece struck by the United States Mint came out perfectly. Tiny imperfections, minting mistakes, and odd variations often slipped through, creating rare specimens that decades later became treasures. The 1951 penny was struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D mint mark, and San Francisco with the S mint mark. Each mint had its own production runs, its own quirks, and its own share of mistakes. Philadelphia produced the highest mintage of the 3, while San Francisco produced fewer, which already gave the S mint pennies a certain premium among collectors. But what truly sets the stage for enormous value is when a coin leaves the mint with a dramatic error or variation that changes it from being a simple 1-cent piece into a one-of-a-kind artifact. Collectors and numismatists look for such errors because rarity combined with demand equals value. In the case of the 1951 wheat penny, there are known examples of double dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and even transitional anomalies where the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Each of these errors tells a story of how human oversight and mechanical imperfections can transform ordinary currency into a treasure point. One of the most famous errors associated with the 1951 wheat penny is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the coin had been impressed twice slightly off alignment, creating a doubling effect on the letters or numbers. For a 1951 penny, doubling on the date, the motto "In God We Trust," or the word liberty can dramatically increase its value. Collectors love double dies because they are easy to see with the naked eye and they represent a distinct mistake rather than simple wear. Some double die 1951 pennies have sold for tens of thousands of dollars, and in mint state conditions their values are even higher. Another intriguing error is the repunched mint mark, known as RPM among collectors. In the early 1950s, mint marks were still punched into dies by hand, which means that a worker could accidentally punch the letter more than once in slightly different positions. This creates a shadow-like effect around the mint mark, whether it be a D or an S on the 1951 penny. Some RPM varieties are subtle, while others are dramatic, with the mint mark clearly doubled or even tripled. These varieties attract serious attention in the collector's market and can command prices far above the normal wheat cent. Off-center strikes are another type of minting error that can make a 1951 penny worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the degree of misalignment. If the blank planchet was not properly centered between the dies, the design would be struck partially off, creating a coin with missing details and an unusual appearance. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes, especially if the date remains visible. An off-center 1951 penny with a clear date can be worth a small fortune. Clipped planchets are another fascinating error. These occur when the blank piece of metal from which the coin is struck was improperly cut, leaving the coin with a curved or straight piece missing. Collectors find these errors appealing because they are unusual and add character to the coin. A clipped planchet error on a 1951 penny can add substantial value, particularly if combined with another error such as an off-center strike. There are also transitional errors, which are among the most valuable of all. These occur when a coin is struck on the wrong type of metal planchet, perhaps one intended for another denomination. Although rare, there are instances where wheat pennies were struck on dime planchets, steel planchets, or other unexpected metal types. A 1951 penny struck on a silver dime planchet, for instance, would be worth an astronomical sum, because it would be both unique and historically significant. The real fascination comes when we imagine the possibility of a perfect storm of errors on a single coin. A 1951 penny that combines a double die, a repunched mint mark, and a transitional planchet error would be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Such a coin could fetch unimaginable sums, potentially reaching values in the hundreds of millions of dollars, simply because it would be unique, iconic, and the crown jewel of any collection. It is worth noting that coin collectors are not just paying for metal, they are paying for rarity, history, and uniqueness. A penny with errors that make it one of a kind transcends its role as money and becomes a historical artifact. This is why a coin like the 1951 wheat penny, under the right circumstances, could be valued at $560 million. It is not just a penny anymore, it is a story, a mystery, and a treasure. Another factor driving the value of such coins is their condition, or grade. Coins are evaluated on a scale from poor to perfect mint state. A 1951 wheat penny in circulated condition might only be worth a few cents or a few dollars, but in uncirculated mint state, with sharp details and full red luster, its value increases dramatically. When such a coin also carries a rare error, the price can skyrocket. Top population coins, meaning the finest known examples of their type, often set record prices at auctions. If a 1951 error penny is the finest known, collectors will compete fiercely for it, pushing the price into the stratosphere. Auction history shows us how seemingly small coins can sell for incredible amounts. Rare wheat pennies from other years, such as the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die penny, have sold for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. These records set the precedent and open the imagination to the possibility of even higher prices for unique discoveries. A 1951 wheat penny with a dramatic and unique error could easily surpass them all, especially if collectors view it as a once-in-history coin. What makes coin collecting so thrilling is that these treasures are still out there. Millions of wheat pennies were minted in 1951, and many still survive in jars, boxes, or old collections. It is possible that someone could stumble upon a unique error coin without even realizing what they have. This sense of possibility fuels the passion of collectors and keeps the market alive. The idea that a penny you find in change could be worth millions, or even $560 million, is part of the magic of numismatics. Beyond errors, historical context also adds value. Coins minted in the early 1950s represent a period of growth and optimism in America, a time when the country was rebuilding after war and moving into a new era of prosperity. A coin from this time, especially one with unique characteristics, carries not just monetary value but symbolic value. It is a connection to the past, to the everyday lives of people who used these pennies in their daily transactions, perhaps to buy candy, newspapers, or bus fare. Collectors are also drawn to the artistry of the wheat penny. The obverse features Victor David Brenner's iconic portrait of Lincoln, a design that has lasted for more than a century. The reverse with its wheat stalk symbolizes abundance and growth. A 1951 penny is not just a piece of metal, it is a miniature work of art, mass-produced yet capable of being unique when struck with an error. Over the years, countless collectors have built sets of wheat pennies, trying to acquire every date and mint mark combination. But it is the errors and rarities that stand out, that capture the imagination and often become the centerpiece of a collection. The 1951 penny, with its various known errors, is a perfect example of how a common coin can achieve legendary status. SOY $560 million. That figure is not just about the coin itself, but about what it represents. In the world of collectibles, ultimate value comes from uniqueness, demand, and the willingness of wealthy collectors to pay for ownership. A one-of-a-kind 1951 penny with multiple dramatic errors, in top condition, could become the ultimate prize. Its value would not be dictated by metal content. Today we're going to take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating coins ever struck in the United States, a coin that has stirred the interest of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters for decades. It's the 1956 D. Lincoln wheat penny, a coin with a face value of just 1 cent, but due to a combination of extremely rare minting errors, anomalies, and unique possibilities, certain examples of this coin have been valued by collectors at prices reaching an unbelievable $570 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single penny from 1956 with the Denver Mint mark has the potential to be worth more than $500 million, not because of the copper it's made of, but because of the errors, quirks, and mysteries that surround it. When we think about coins, we often picture something ordinary, just a piece of change we use without giving it much thought. But in the world of numismatics, the study and collection of coins, what seems ordinary can actually hide incredible stories. Every coin tells a tale of history, design, production, and sometimes, mistakes that were never meant to happen. Those mistakes, those minting errors, are often what take a coin from being common to being unimaginably valuable. That's exactly the case with the 1956 D wheat penny. While billions of pennies were struck that year, only a tiny fraction contain the kinds of flaws and mysteries that make collectors go wild, pushing the value of certain rare pieces into the realm of legend. To understand why this particular penny can be so valuable, we first need to step back and look at the context of its creation. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin featured Lincoln's portrait on the obverse, and for the first 50 years of its existence, the reverse displayed the famous wheat ears design, which is why collectors today call these early cents wheat pennies. The design itself became iconic, and these wheat pennies remain among the most collected coins in American history. By 1956, the wheat penny had already been in circulation for nearly half a century, and the Denver Mint was one of the primary facilities striking them. The Denver Mint, designated by the D Mint mark, was responsible for producing an enormous number of Lincoln cents in 1956. In fact, over 1 billion wheat pennies were struck that year across all mints, with Denver producing the vast majority of them. For most people, a 1956 D penny is extremely common. You can still find examples in circulation today, and in circulated condition they're usually worth just a few cents. But when you start to look closely at certain coins with unusual features, the story changes dramatically. The real treasures are those with dramatic minting errors, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, repunched mint marks, and even transitional planchet mistakes that occurred during production. These rare errors transform a common coin into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece, especially when the error is unique or so spectacular that no other example exists. Now, let's talk about the kinds of errors that have been reported or speculated about in the 1956 D wheat penny that could lead to value skyrocketing into the hundreds of millions. The first and perhaps most famous error in Lincoln cents is the double die. A double die occurs when the die used to strike the coin has been improperly manufactured, resulting in the design being duplicated slightly off-center. This creates doubling in the details, most often visible in the lettering, the date, or the mint mark. Collectors go absolutely crazy for double die coins. The most famous example is the 1955 double die penny, which shows dramatic doubling in the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." That coin alone, in high grade, can sell for tens of thousands of dollars. Now imagine if a similar double die error was discovered on a 1956 D penny with equally strong and dramatic doubling. Such a coin would not just rival the 1955 variety, it could surpass it in rarity and value. A unique 1956 D double die could be the reason for the astronomical valuation of $570 million. Another fascinating type of error involves repunched mint marks, commonly abbreviated as RPMs. In 1956, the minting process still required mint marks to be punched by hand into the die. This meant that sometimes the worker would accidentally punch the mint mark more than once, slightly misaligned each time. This creates a repunched appearance where you can see 2 or even 3 overlapping mint marks. Some repunched mint mark errors are minor, but others are so clear and bold that they become highly desirable collector's items. For the 1956 D penny, several RPM varieties have been catalogued, but if a unique, bold, and previously unknown RPM were discovered, especially combined with another error like doubling, it could become one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever. Then there are off-center strikes. These occur when the blank coin planchet is not properly centered in the press during striking. Depending on how far off-center the strike is, you can end up with coins that show only part of the design, or in extreme cases, coins that are almost completely blank on one side. Collectors love dramatic off-center strikes, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. A 1956 D penny with a huge off-center strike but still showing the 1956 and the D could be worth an absolute fortune, especially in pristine condition. Another error to consider is the die crack or die break. Over time, the dies used to strike coins can develop cracks, and when those cracks strike the planchets, the resulting coins show raised lines or blobs of metal in unusual places. Sometimes these die cracks are minor, but in other cases, they can create dramatic and unusual shapes. Collectors call some of these cuds when a piece of the die breaks away entirely, leaving a large blob-like area on the coin. A 1956 D penny with a massive cud or dramatic die break could be extremely rare, especially if it alters the design in a way that's visually striking and unique. Even more intriguing are the possibilities of transitional planchet errors. This happens when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another year or denomination. For example, if a 1956 D penny was accidentally struck on a silver dime planchet, or a leftover steel cent planchet from 1943, it would be extraordinarily rare. These kinds of off-metal errors are some of the most sought after in coin collecting, often fetching 6 or 7 figures at auction. If a unique 1956 D wheat penny were discovered struck on an unusual planchet, it could push the value into the hundreds of millions simply because of its one-of-a-kind status. But why would a coin like this be valued as high as $570 million, when other rare pennies typically sell for much less? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, condition, uniqueness, and the willingness of collectors or wealthy investors to pay almost anything for the crown jewel of a collection. If a 1956 D penny exists that combines multiple errors, say a double die obverse with a dramatic repunched mint mark, struck off-center, and on a transitional planchet, then you have a coin that is essentially unique in the world. When something is one of a kind, its value is limited only by how much someone is willing to pay. And in the high-stakes world of rare coin collecting, where wealthy enthusiasts compete for ownership of legendary pieces, the sky is the limit. Consider also the role of condition, or what collectors call grade. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. Even the most common coins can become valuable in high grades, because finding an old coin that has survived decades without scratches, wear, or damage is extremely difficult. For the 1956 D penny, examples in mint state condition, uncirculated with full original luster, are already desirable. Now, imagine if the error coin we're discussing exists not just in mint state, but in near perfect MS67 or MS68 grade. Such a coin would be practically priceless throughout history. Rare coins have consistently set record prices at auction, with wealthy collectors and institutions driving prices higher and higher. The 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold coin, once sold for over $18 million, becoming one of the most valuable coins ever sold. If a single penny could combine historical significance, extreme rarity, multiple errors, and top condition, it could surpass even that record. The 1956 D wheat penny valued at $570 million may sound unbelievable, but in the world of collecting, where rarity is everything, such astronomical numbers are within the realm of possibility. Beyond the technical errors and minting anomalies, part of the allure of the 1956 D penny lies in its mystery. Stories circulate in the collecting community about lost treasures, undiscovered varieties, and coins hidden away for decades that suddenly surface to shock the world. The idea that a common coin you might find in an old jar of change could be worth millions captivates people's imaginations. That's what keeps collectors searching, examining every penny carefully under magnification, hoping to be the lucky one who discovers the next great rarity. The fascination also comes from the broader historical context. In 1956, America was in the midst of post-war prosperity. The country was growing, consumer culture was booming, and coins like the 1956 D penny were an everyday part of life. Kids carried them to buy candy, families used them at the gas station, and workers jingled them in their pockets on the way home. To think that one of those ordinary pennies,